Who are you? What's your company's name? And what do you guys do?
Sure. My name is Rob Carroll. I am CEO of RollCraft. RollCraft is a new video game studio where we are looking to kind of bring back some of the casual RPGs that used to be really popular in social gaming.
Hmm.
There was a game on Facebook called Mafia Wars, which was extremely popular, and Facebook kind of got away from the gaming, and those games have somewhat disappeared from the market. But it's our belief that the users are still there. It's still definitely a lot of folks that are interested in that. So we are working to bring that style of gaming back with what we're building at RollCraft. We have our first game, which is our adventures game, which is kind of high fantasy, dragons and elves, and kind of classic RPG. But we're really building out the platform to be able to quickly reskin and go with different genres.
Hmm. Hmm.
So high fantasy first, and then we're looking at like zombie apocalypse
Hmm.
and like JRPG, anime-manga style. And my co-founder, Peter, he's very excited about backyard adventures style game.
Hmm.
So kind of like a Peter Rabbit Watership Downs with like fuzzy bunnies and foxes and kind of a different take on an RPG game. So that's another
That's
skin that we're
great.
looking to do as well.
Yeah, totally awesome. So I guess what's your background? Like, how did you get into this? What's your story? What's kind of the origin of how you decided to get into this type of gaming?
Well, I've been doing game development for 20 years.
Okay.
I started off with LucasArts and worked with Zynga early on, and that's actually where I started working on this style of text-based RPG game. So I worked on these games with Zynga, and on my course through the games industry, I've done a lot of work in the free-to-play gaming space. Worked with World of Tanks and their mobile game launch with Blitz, and I've been doing this for a good while. I have a lot of background in free-to-play monetization and user acquisition, and so I have a great background, a lot of experience in this, and decided that it's time to go out there and do it ourselves.
That's cool. Typically for a game, probably I would imagine the majority of my listeners and myself included have never made a game. What is typically like a starting point? Is it just a small idea on a napkin? Is it more of a title? Is it more of, hey, we're going to be on this type of platform? Like what's that first step kind of out of the gate of we want to put together a title?
Usually the first step is sitting around and playing games with your friends and saying like, oh, I have a great idea. We should do it this way. We should do this thing here. That we've probably been through thousands of those over the years. Like, oh, that would make a great game. With RollCraft and what we were doing, we were actually playing some board games and rolling some dice on the game, and like thinking about how we could evolve that into an online game, and kind of how do you take those board game mechanics and the role playing mechanics and a lot of the stuff that's out there, and how do we how could we evolve that into something that's really interesting?
Yeah.
We spent probably a year just kind of thinking about it in the background. And then, the opportunity arose for us to go out and basically found the company and kind of get it started. And we took it from there. We've been working on the actual mechanics of RollCraft and the design of RollCraft for about a year, kind of nights and weekends. And more recently, we've taken an active role in kind of getting this thing going forward. We have started our fundraising, and this is a big focus now.
What is like core differences between maybe what you guys do to maybe people who might think of PlayStation 5 games or console type titles? Like, are there big differences, little differences? What is kind of the differences between your worlds?
I would say the first difference is probably budget. To put a game out on PlayStation or Xbox right now, competitively, you're looking at $100 million budget. Those are the kind of the AAA games now. There's another term called a AA game, which is kind of smaller mid-tier studios, and Arc Raiders is a great example of that. Those are where you're looking at like a $20 to $50 million budget.
Okay.
What we're doing with RollCraft is definitely a lot smaller in scale. We are working with a lot of existing technologies. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. So all of our development is web focused. We're working in HTML5. We're using some great third-party tools. Heroic Labs is running our player management in our back end. Exola is doing our payment processing. So there's a lot of tools out there these days that allow developers to do this very quickly. So, we're looking to go to market with about a $300,000 budget.
Okay. Do you find that the user of games are just a different sort of what they want out of gaming? Do they want that 100 million PS5 that we just talked about, that type of major title? Or do you find that there are certain types of gamers that just want more of this web-based? I don't know if they, play with it for a little while. Are they just different type of gamers, or are gamers just kind of playing anything and everything that they find enjoyable?
Well, it's kind of hard to categorize people. It's like saying, what type of movie do you like? Do you like horror movies? Do you like, superhero movies? The gamers will gravitate towards the type of game that they like. You can't make somebody play a game that they don't enjoy. We're really, we're focusing on making a really core quality RPG game. That's not probably going to appeal to somebody that's playing Candy Crush. And it may not necessarily appeal to somebody that's playing Call of Duty.
Right.
But, there are a lot of people that enjoy this style of game, and that's really what we're making it for. Those are the folks that we want to come play it, and we are, trying to make the best game that we can for them. Personally, I think if you try to make a game that appeals to everybody, nobody's going to like it.
Sure.
You really need to look at what your audience is and what the core mechanics and the gameplay is, and do that really well. And that's kind of where we're approaching it.
So in your mind, does RollCraft think about sort of this persona, this gaming persona, for more of the studio, or for each individual game? So as how do you sort of think about that if an investor's asking like, hey, who are you really targeting right now? Is it the studio itself, or is it individual titles or games that might change?
Well, I guess what we're doing right now is we're really building the first game. The first game is high fantasy. It is targeting folks that like Dungeons and Dragons and World of Warcraft and that style of player. And we want to make that first game really well. And we're not looking at the reskins. We're not looking at the new game styles until we get the first game done right. Now we're building that first game, that back end infrastructure, with the full intention of reskinning and going to a lot of different genres. But
Gotcha.
we have to get the first one done right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So all of the onboarding, that first time user experience, retention, monetization, that all has to be done right before we even start looking at any other skins.
That's cool.
So the audience that we're looking for, that core high fantasy player, those are the players that we want. In terms of investors, we want folks that are looking for, a company that is, starting off small and looking to really hyper scale. So, we've got a lot of great partners that we're working with in the web gaming space. So out of the gate, we've got probably 8 platforms that are looking to put us on there. So there's a lot of these web gaming portals. Some great examples are Crazy Games, Armor Games, Kongregate, itch.io. Tons of them out there, and they are all super hungry for content. It's basically similar to streaming with TV and movies. There's lots of platforms out there, and they're all hungry for content.
Right.
And so we're really in a great place where we've got what we think is really beautiful content that's really compelling, with a lot of ongoing content and updates and new items and new things and new stories for players to stay engaged with. So we really have a roadmap to keep people on the platform, keep people playing. And for these gaming portals that we're working with, that's really what they want. They're desperate for that type of content. And so early on, partnering with them, they're going to drive a lot of our early acquisition, because it really works for both of us. They do the user acquisition, they do the surfacing to their player base in exchange for a revenue share. So rather than us having to pay for user acquisition up front, we are getting that acquisition and doing a revenue share with our portal partners.
That's cool. Well, I guess let's kind of pivot over a little bit to revenue. How does a gaming system like this work? How would you make money ultimately at the end of the day, with the partnerships, and just what's the sort of business model here?
How do we make money? I think I go with the South Park model is, come up with a plan, go to market, throw down. It's going to be awesome. That's the whole plan. I love Cartman's little chart there. I've got that somewhere. What we are working on is we are doing a free-to-play game. So anybody can install it. There's no upfront purchase for the game. And they can actually play 95% of the content without having to spend a dime. maybe not the best business model there, but where we come in to monetize is we sell premium items. So we have a lot of heroes in the game. So players can use the existing heroes, they can grind through the game and earn new heroes, or they can purchase heroes. And the same thing with a lot of the content, the crafting items, potions, magic items, all of that stuff. Most of them are acquirable from playing the game. But if you don't want to spend that much time, you can just go ahead and purchase. So a lot of the time with these free-to-play games, the trade-off is you can give the game all the time you want and you get a lot of stuff, or you can give the game money and proceed through the game faster. So that, that's an opportunity that we really provide to the players, is how they want to interact with the content. They can choose how they want to do that. The other thing we do is we use ads, so video ads in the game, rewarded ads they're called. A lot of times games will put in what's called a pre-roll and force users to watch an ad before you can go through content. Personally, I don't like that. I think it's kind of a bad experience for the user. Yeah. Most of the time people just put their phone over here and do something else while that ad's rolling. So it's not a great experience. We put in opt-in advertising. So let's say your hero dies in a big battle and you don't have a healing potion for them. You can purchase a healing potion, spend real money on it, or you can watch this video and get a potion for free.
Gotcha.
Or you can get an extra chest of treasure, or there's lots of mechanics that we have in the game that take that rewarded video component and allow people to watch that and get stuff for free in the game.
Right.
But we're getting revenue for the ads, and it's a mechanic that works really well and helps us increase that monetization base. So we have a core group of users that will monetize. We love them. Happy to have them play. And then there's that next tier of player that maybe isn't ready to break out their wallet and make a purchase, but they're willing to watch a an ad for AG1 or whatever's rolling that particular week. And for us, that's all revenue, all monetization. So we're happy to kind of work that in wherever we can.
That's cool. Is that is this whole checkout process done through the partnerships that we were just talking about, or is it? I'm thinking about my kids. They play Roblox and Minecraft, and they're constantly asking for money on Apple Tunes or whatever it is. I'm just like, yep, accept the $1.99 for some in-store purchase. How is your guys' process going to work? Is it similar to the partnerships handle all that, or is it you're still working with like an iTunes or something, or an Android Google Store or something like that?
So it depends.
Okay.
With the partner platforms like Crazy Games, they have their own checkout. Again, that's would be very similar to Roblox, very similar to Apple there. So they handle all of that purchase transaction. For our standalone site, we're working with a company called Exola, probably one of the largest payment providers in the industry, and we will be handling that purchase flow on our website ourselves. So. Really depends on where the user is playing. Will dictate kind of where that purchase flow happens from.
Okay, interesting. You mentioned something a minute ago, the term reskinning, and I don't think I've ever really heard that. Can we go into a little bit more detail? What is that, and how would a investor or somebody thinking about this start to think about like what that might equal as to other games, other titles, et cetera? What are we talking about here?
So with a reskin, I'm trying to think of some examples of it. Probably the easiest way to think about it is we have a core engine. We have all of our logic, all of the battle mechanics, all of the monetization, third-party tie-ins. All of that stuff is our core engine. And all of that is being wrapped around, for the first game, around that high fantasy theme. Now, we can take the art and the story, and we can swap that out fairly easily without having to change that core engine.
Okay.
So we can go and put in that RPG anime-manga style. We can do the zombies with a different art style, different stories, different quests and everything, different items for the people to purchase. And it's actually a full different game. But all of the core mechanics are the same. So we're using that same engine that we're building out for the high fantasy game, and we will be able to, where it's taking us 6 to 8 months to build the core game, we'll probably be able to do a reskin in 1 or 2 months.
Okay, interesting. So I guess at this point, when you're thinking about this, are there sort of best practices to around making this core, sort of the mechanisms, just knowing that they will apply to other verticals, other game styles? Are there sort of best practices that you're thinking about at this stage in terms of what's being built?
Absolutely. The way we approach it, and it actually kind of helps us with another aspect of the game, which is localization. We try not to bake in any of the content in the platform. So when you have a story and you write out like, and Sir Sven went out and battled the mighty dragon, that text that people will be seeing there and the art that goes behind that, we don't bake that into what the what the engine is. That's all loaded through JSONs and through external loaders through the platforms that we're using. So it's kind of like and if you think of the engine itself as kind of an empty canvas with a bunch of containers that we're filling in, designing the engine from the start with that kind of empty container mentality to it. So we can put whatever content we in there, feeding in from spreadsheets, feeding in from the back end on our engine. And so it's actually fairly easy to just change out which art piece loads into there and what story and what pieces it load in there. So it's basically kind of a giant spreadsheet that we just pull out, drop over here, and now it's zombies over here.
Yeah.
Cute foxes and bunnies.
How has AI changed your space? Have you seen lots of big changes with AI technology in your vertical?
I can't think of an industry that hasn't yet. Maybe plumbing is about the only one that hasn't been taken over by AI. A lot of the art that we do is AI generated. So we start with a bunch of different prompts, and we come up with maybe 30 different art pieces for a particular experience or an interaction that the players will have. And then Peter, my co-founder, is our creative officer, and he goes in and he's doing hand painting on top of that original AI generation. So it's not like we're just taking an AI piece and slamming it in there.
Right.
We're using AI as that concept piece, and it creates that kind of first pass, and then he is going in there and kind of giving it the human touch and really making it more personalized. So we're using a lot of the AI for that. Obviously on the coding side, AI does help speed up a lot of that process there. But again, we're not doing super complex engineering. It's all HTML5. It's all kind of web technology there that's fairly easy to program in.
Yeah. As you guys start to scale up, what does that really look like in your space? Is it finding stories from other creators? Is it just your internal team kicking out new reskins? Like, what is scale kind of in this space for you?
I think for us, scale again it's the first game. Let's focus on the high fantasy one. Let's get that to be not only self-sustaining but profitable, and making sure that all of our mechanics, all of our dials are turned properly, so that first time user experience, that onboarding flow, we're hitting over 70% of users that land on the game to getting through that first time experience that we've dictated for them. And then we're looking at 3-day retention, 7-day retention, 30-day retention, and then kind of beyond, and constantly looking at ways to keep people engaged with the game. What are we doing to get them to come back after that 3rd day, after that 7th day? If that's starting to dip, why is it dipping? So I will say a lot of what we do in the gaming industry, and I'm sure it's the same for most other online industries as well, is we're very data focused. We're really kind of looking at the numbers. Like what we do is really cool and really pretty, and it's awesome to have dragons and warriors and stuff going on out there. But at the end of the day, we are a live service. So looking at those numbers and making sure that the engine itself and the game itself is running well. And then once we are at a point where we're comfortable with that, then we're looking at increasing spend on user acquisition for that core game. And then we start to do the reskins, and then kind of wash and repeat with that process there, where working with partners to get those games launched, to make sure that everything is working properly. And turn the dials, user acquisition, on and on. Next skin after that, and at that point, we're scaling up the team, we're scaling up the live operations side, and kind of going from there. And for us, what we're really looking for is where does this company go? As we grow, as we become profitable, do we continue to just grow the company out? and get to a point where we are a very appealing acquisition for one of these larger studios, which is a great exit for us, and definitely one of the things that we're looking at for where we're going down the road. Or are we a profitable company and potentially looking at an IPO? That's kind of where we're looking at.
Okay. In terms of kind of going back to that sort of retention and maybe even churn, is there a metric that you got that gamers themselves or people like yourself would be looking at and saying, this means we have a successful game, this means that we need to go back to the drawing board? Is there something like, hey, they play this game for 7 days in a row or whatever it is? Is there just a general metric that you guys are looking for as like an industry standard of success, not success, and where you should go from there?
Yes, there's one magic number. If we hit that one magic number, everything works. There's actually quite a lot. Obviously, monetization is one of probably the most important KPIs that we're looking at. So that average revenue per user is one of those key metrics that we are always looking to increase as much as we can. But then we're also looking at the retention numbers. What is our daily active users? Are we keeping people in the game and playing it? What is our onboarding rate? So from somebody clicking on an ad on Facebook or Instagram or wherever to making that first purchase, what are those percentages looking like? And we're looking at really every step along the way in that onboarding flow. So, somebody clicks on the ad, goes to the game, hope we're looking at 95% carry through there. Then, from starting, getting into the game to starting that new user flow, we want to have about a 75% flow through on that. And then, are they coming back the next day? Are they coming back the third day, the seventh day? There are a lot of benchmarks in the industry that people have just been collecting over the years. So we know what's healthy and we know what's not healthy and what we need to fix. In particular, looking at each point along that onboarding flow to see, is there a friction point or is something broken? Is there a bug or something that's preventing people from progressing?
How much is the data pushing the story or the story pushing what you want to see in the data?
I would say early on, the story's already written. So we've got about 6 months of content already generated. So adventures, heroes, items, all of that content that the players will be interacting with. We are looking to keep this game as a very active live service. So ideally, we'll be doing monthly content updates. So new stories for them to go through, new heroes to purchase, items to craft, and all of that. I would like to get to a point where we're doing it every other week.
Okay.
That's kind of a heavy content lift there. So, probably need some more staff, some more folks on that. But in terms of what the story is early on, we've kind of got that locked in, and we'll be able to kind of look at what are people engaged with. Is there a particular hero that they really like? Is there a hero that nobody wants? And then we can kind of look at what do we think the reasons are that they don't want that hero, they don't like that story. But we also have fairly active communities that we'll be working with. So we Discord and Reddit, and it actually is kind of amazing. It gives us this really direct interaction with our community, and we can say like, well, hey, why is nobody buying Squeakle? He's this great little mouse hero that we had. We thought people would really like him. And people, I'm sure, will say, like, oh, he's terrible. He's he doesn't have any power, or he looks stupid, or whatever the reason is. But having that, kind of like direct feedback from the users helps us take what our assumptions are and kind of correlate that with the data that we're seeing, and then kind of give us the bigger picture of what's going on.
So the reason we're talking today, I want to pivot a little bit over to investment. We've kind of danced around on a couple answers and questions here. I want to talk a little about, so you're over on WeFunder right now. You're raising some capital there. What was some of the thought patterns around going to crowdfunding for this type of raise? Maybe even why you chose this platform. Just what was some of the things behind the scenes that you guys were talking about before you launched?
I guess behind the scene, the first thing is that we didn't have to raise a ton of money. So, we didn't have to raise $5 million to get to market. I mean, I'm sure we could. It would be awesome. I would love to have $5 million. It would be great. Solves all the problems. Creates new ones.
Yeah.
But that wasn't what we needed to get to market. Again, we're a small team working with a lot of third-party tooling, and so we kind of looked at the numbers, what we needed to get to market, what we needed to get to sustainability, and came up with that 300,000 number. That number is pretty well below what any VC is interested in.
Yeah.
That's couch change for most of the VCs out there.
Yeah.
And then, for angel investors and family offices and folks like that, I think we're kind of more in line with what they would be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
But it's difficult to get people to cut that check for you if you're just saying, "Hey, give me a check." "Hey, I'm raising money for this company. Send me $50,000 and I will send you some money in the future." That is a somewhat challenging argument, and that's really where we came to WeFunder from. I ended up meeting their head of marketing down here in San Diego, and just had a really great discussion with him. I am very familiar with a Kickstarter and that idea of crowdfunding, but with quick Kickstarter, you're getting perks and bonuses in the game there, but you're not actually getting any ownership in what you're investing in. And with WeFunder, they just have this really great model where you are doing that same kind of micro community investment, but with WeFunder, you're getting something out of it. You're getting those, those investment terms. We'll keep it vague there. You're getting those investment terms that are on the platform, and that's really different. There's not a lot of game companies that had done that, and that was something that was really appealing to us. And the story has been really well received. I think it's not just, "Hey, send me a check and someday I'll send you a return on your investment. Here's this platform. Here are the terms. It's all laid out there." And WeFunder actually handles all of the developer relations. So in terms of getting those checks and getting those payments sent out and all of the investment terms there, they handle all of that. So it is a very legitimate way to do that kind of smaller community fundraise.
Yeah. Did you have any concerns or questions around, would your type of audience understand equity crowdfunding investment? Again, I've done a good amount of board games in my past on Kickstarter and stuff, and found that audience was really kind of very straight line from, I get this, I'll put $100 in, I'll get the game in 6 months, whatever it is. Did you have any concerns or questions that the audience for investment wouldn't translate as much to this vertical that we're in right now?
And I think what we are, with the audience, with the investment audience, for them, we just have a very straightforward value proposition. When we can get into the details on that if you would like later, but our investment terms are very straightforward and I think fairly generous. And you can kind of see all of that on our WeFunder site. For the gamers, I mean, I think most gamers, if you tell them, not only are you getting a cool hero to play with in the game, but you're also getting you're now a stakeholder in the company. And I think for a lot of folks, that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
You're getting so much more than just that hero, just that extra die in the game. You're really part of the adventure.
Sure. What does the next 18 to 24 months sort of look like? What are the big couple milestones? I know we talked about just obviously getting this first game out and stuff like that, but do you have sort of, we want to be at this many users, or are there any numbers that you're trying to hit over the next 18, 24 months?
24 months. I'm working about the next 24 hours. For us, right now we are targeting an August launch for the first game, and that will be probably a soft launch with one of our platform partners, and we will use that. Probably those first 30 days of launch. Those are where we're really looking at those dials and those numbers. Where did we miss something in that onboarding flow? Where can we optimize? Where can we streamline? I think once we have that initial onboarding and that initial flow kind of going well, then we're going to go wider, potentially September, October, with more of the larger platform partners like Crazy Games. And Crazy Games, they have 50 million monthly actives on their platform. So quite a substantial audience there that we will have access to. I think that we are, that's probably where we're looking at for the launch. Kind of what our initial goals are for the rest of this year is to get
Hmm.
the game launched, get the optimization done, and then expand beyond those launch platforms. Beyond that, I think we're looking at early 27 for profitability.
Okay.
And then looking at doing that expansion and doing those reskins and going for more titles.
That's great.
Again, what we're building out here is not super complex. It's also not super expensive. So
Hmm.
profitability for us, where we have a small team and a lot of third parties that we're working with, doesn't take a lot to get there.
Gotcha. That's great. That's great. Well, where should people dive in if they want to learn more? They want to check out the fundraising campaign. Where should we send people?
We should send people to wefunder.com/RollCraft, RollCraft. And that's where all of our details are. I'm sure you'll have a link in the description.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, but that's where we really go into a lot more depth of what the platform is, what our plans are, and really detail out for the investor what it is that they're getting and what the opportunity is.
that's cool. And is there a demo for anybody to go to, or is that on the WeFunder as well?
We have some videos up on the WeFunder. We are
Okay.
actually actively in development right now. So we
Okay.
had our demo up when we were at the Game Developer Conference here in March. We
Okay.
have pulled the demo down because we're in build mode now. We'll have that back up again here probably in a month or two,
Okay.
and with even more shiny, awesome stuff to play with.
That's great. Well, Rob, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you're busy. You got a lot of stuff going on here. For my listeners out there, you guys have heard me say this before, but go to the show notes. I'll have all the links in there. Go check it all out. Go over to WeFunder and connect with Rob. Really great stuff here. I'm really excited about this conversation. Thanks so much for jumping on.
Absolutely happy to be here, Jeff. Thank you very much for having us.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.